Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today so that we could talk about something other than the coronavirus. I am excited to talk with you about recruitment. It is a passion of mine. My name is Lori Dahlberg, and I have been with Eide Bailly for 17 years. 10 years was spent leading the recruitment efforts for the firm, and prior to Eide Bailly, I worked as a head recruiter and recruitment manager for a large technology firm. So recruitment has always been in my blood, as I've had 30 years in the human resources profession, and I'm excited to talk with you today about recruitment best practices and how you can find top talent to help your organization be successful. So before we start with recruitment, I want to talk with you about the reason we have to focus on recruitment. And it's because turnover statistics are pretty staggering and very costly to an organization. We still have extremely low unemployment. With the coronavirus and all these businesses shutting down, there are even more individuals who are unemployed. So it does make it a little bit easier to find talent. The problem is a lot of the folks who are now unemployed because of the coronavirus may not have the skills that we're looking for our positions. But when we have low unemployment, it makes it difficult to find talent. And on top of that, employee tenure just is not great. It's certainly better than it used to be. There for a while, employees were leaving their companies after only being there for a year or less. That has gone up a bit, thank gosh. Employees are wanting to stay with employers, but it's still not great. People don't join organizations with the intent that they're going to stay there forever anymore. And so that creates quite a bit of turnover. The number of current job postings out there is in the millions. I was looking out on Indeed.com, which is one of the most common job boards out there, and there's just millions upon millions upon millions of job postings. So that means that really good candidates actually have a lot of options to choose from. And the length of time to fill an open position is now ranging anywhere from 5 days for less skilled positions to around 50 days for those positions that require specific skill sets, degrees, certifications. So that's a long time. I mean, that's a month and a half or more that you may go without having somebody there to do a job that needs to be done. And that cost of turnover then averages $15,000 per person for an employee who earns around $45,000 a year, and it can be as high as 1.5 times the annual base compensation for those senior level positions or those highly compensated positions. So it's staggering out there. The cost of having to find top talent is really causing a lot of issues for companies, and making sure that you hire the right person becomes key in order to hire the folks to do the jobs that you need to be done and then hopefully retain them. So we're going to start off with our first polling question. I'd like to know how many positions you currently have open within your organization right now.
So we have 74% that say 1 to 10, 11% that say 11 to 25, 9% 26 to 50, and 7% that says 51 or more.
Okay, so a lot of people have a lot of positions open, and depending upon the size of your organization, you know, if you only have a 20-person shop, if you have 2 people or 2 positions open, that's still a large percentage of your employee population. So people have job openings, and that's pretty much exactly what the data says, is that just about everyone is hiring. And when everyone is hiring, what we're dealing with is what we call the war for talent. And what that is an increasingly competitive landscape for recruiting and retaining talented employees. And the only way to win a war on talent is to operate with the mindset that emphasizes the importance of recruitment of talent to the success of your organization. You have to make it a top priority. It can no longer just be, oh yeah, it's that nagging fly buzzing around my ear, I got to take care of it. It literally needs to become a strategic initiative that you are focused on, and something that you set policies, practices, and tools up so that you can be successful. So what that means is that you have to establish that recruitment process. that includes the steps necessary to find the best possible person to do the job and not just a butt in a seat. You want to have procedures in place that are going to allow you to determine, is someone actually qualified to do the job? Do they have the right soft skills to do the job? Do they have the right motivation to do the job? And you have to put that focus on finding, recruiting, and selecting talent. So in creating this process that makes recruitment a focus in your organization, one thing you have to do is to utilize the right people from your organization in that recruitment and interview process. You can no longer just go with whoever is in the office, or this guy's a manager, so he's going to be responsible for doing the interviewing. You have to be strategic about who you put in your recruitment process so that they attract the right individuals, they assess skills the proper way, and they can really promote your organization and the position in a way that makes somebody actually want to join your organization. So polling question number 2. Do you have a formal recruitment process and tools for your hiring managers to follow or use? Okay, so I am proud of the majority of the folks on the call. You do have a process in place and tools that are utilized so that you are consistent. For those of you that don't have a process in place, hopefully what you learned today will allow you to develop a process and come up with some tools so that you do have a consistent recruitment process that you follow. And in having that standard recruitment process, you're really going to be better situated to make effective hiring decisions. It won't always seem like it's this last-minute task that you have to throw together. So let's talk about this a little bit further. All right, how on earth do you start with your recruitment process? And actually, let me just make sure, okay, just want to make sure we hadn't skipped ahead too far. The way that you find your perfect candidate is you first have to identify what it is that you need. So before you even think about posting a job description and trying to get some candidates in, you need to take some time to figure out, all right, this person is leaving, or this person, we have new business, so we need to hire someone new. What exactly do you want that person to do? The job need may actually be very different than what the previous person was doing. It could be that you've changed your organization and you have different people on the team now with different skill sets, and what you really need in order to move you forward is something different than what you've had in the past. So by picturing the perfect candidate and identifying what they would do, what experience they would have, the kind of person that they are, you know, whether they're very detail-oriented, or they're big picture, or they are extremely social, or they're someone who just sits down, puts their head down and gets the work done. What kind of person do you need on your team? What is missing from your current team so that you can identify the person that's going to fill in those gaps and make your team as well-rounded as it possibly can be? And once you've thought about all of those things, what you've done is you have actually created the profile of a non-existent candidate. And it's what we in the recruiting world call the purple unicorn. The person doesn't exist, right? This is your perfect candidate, the perfect person for the job, and they don't exist. But by going through the exercise, you are identifying all of those traits and qualities and skill sets and experience that you would like to have. And by creating that list, you can then go back and say, okay, based on this list, these are the things I have to have. They have to have this particular level of experience. They have to have this degree or this certification. They have to be strong with customer service, right? And that way you can create your have-to-haves, your must-haves, and then the rest of it is like cherry on the top of a sundae. It's great to have, but it's not required. And it is really, really important to identify that, to identify what are the must-haves and what are the nice-to-haves. Once you know what it is you're looking for, now you can actually go out there and find it. But until you take the time to figure that out, you're never going to find someone that you're completely happy with bringing on board. So once you know what it is that you're looking for, you're going to create a job posting. And a job posting is not a job description. There is no one who actually wants to apply to a position that is listed as a job description, because job descriptions are boring. I don't know how many of you are in human resources, but we create job descriptions for specific reasons. It's to determine if a position is exempt or non-exempt from overtime. It's to identify hierarchy. It's to establish responsibilities so that if there is an issue with someone's work performance, we have something to go back to and talk with them about. Job descriptions are great for their intended purpose. Job descriptions are not what is supposed to be used for recruitment purposes in attracting individuals to the organization. So when you are creating a job posting, you want to start off by providing some information about your company, the cool stuff, what it is that you do and what your team is like. And then you want to share details about the responsibilities and experience that would actually answer questions like, why would I choose this job and why would I choose this company, right? So job postings should be interesting. Bailey actually utilizes a different format for our job postings than we do for job descriptions. So if you're looking for examples, you can go out to our website and just take a look at our job postings. It usually will start off with some information about the company, and then it'll say, you know, a day in the life of an XYZ position might include, and then it identifies some of the cool stuff that people will actually do in the job, not the bullet-pointed job description factors. After you have that job posting created, you now want to get that position posted everywhere you possibly can. You need to have it on your website so that if you currently do not have the capability of posting jobs on your website, that is step number one. You need to make sure that you are able to put your position out on your website so people can see it. You then want to make sure you put it on college job boards. If you're looking for a new college grad or college student, that's imperative. If you're looking for an alumni, somebody who has some experience, you can post it through the alumni centers of the different colleges around you. It will automatically be pulled from your website by Indeed, but if you want to pay Indeed some money, they will feature your job so that if somebody is doing a search of positions in your area or specific positions with the job titles that you might have, it will pull your job posting up on top. And I highly recommend doing it because everyone goes to Indeed.com. And then the other source that you'll want to get your position out to is industry association sites. So if you are a nonprofit, there are nonprofit associations that you may be part of. See if you can get your position posted on those nonprofit association sites. Same goes for the healthcare industry or the manufacturing industry. Just about every profession has an industry association, and you'll want to make sure that you get your job posting out to those association sites so that you're actually attracting individuals that live and work within the industry that you're a part of. And many times, if you're a member of an association, you can get your position posted for free. If not, pay the fee to have it posted there because it's in the exact pool of candidates that you want to be drawing from. You also will want to utilize social media. And even if you don't have a large social media platform, you and your employees oftentimes will have social media accounts, and you'll want to utilize those to your benefit. So just generate a generic post indicating that you're looking for the next great person to add to your team, and say something about, you know, if you are interested or know of someone who might be, you know, please encourage them to contact me. Put the link for your position on your website in your posting on social media, and then share it in places like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. LinkedIn has a lot of different groups, and you may be part of groups. Those groups could include college alumni, it could include industry associations, and oftentimes if you're part of a group on LinkedIn, you can post positions there as well. Facebook, you can either use your company Facebook page to post open opportunities and to link individuals back to your website where they can apply, or you can use your personal Facebook profile to get it out to your network connections. And then if you do utilize Twitter, it's also a great spot to post a position or a link to a position and draw people back to your website. So social media is definitely a place where you can target mass amounts of people. With social media, it's not who you know, it's who they know and who they know and who they know. It just exponentially spreads the word out to a vast group of individuals. And if none of these things work, if you know that it's going to be a difficult to fill position, I do recommend that you contact a staffing agency, but make sure that you are in control of the relationship with your staffing agency, that you are telling them what you want them to do and the types of candidates you want them to send you to or send to you, and what kinds of questions you want them to pre-screen candidates out so that you are only seeing quality individuals. All right. The other thing to consider is that the person that you hire is going to be somewhere within your network. So the more you can spread the word and get the word out that you are hiring, the more likely you are to hear from someone that you know who may be interested in your opportunity. Finding talent within your network is what we call low-hanging fruit. It doesn't require much effort to find individuals that are within your network. And it also doesn't require much money to do that, because the first group that you should look at once you've identified what you're looking for is your internal talent pool. So those are the folks that are within your department or within your organization who may actually have the skills and the interest to move into this new opportunity that you have. The next would be employee referrals. The people who are working for you know a lot about your department, about your company. They know what it takes to be successful there, and most often they will know who within their network would be a good fit for the opportunity. We do recommend that you offer a referral bonus if you are going to reach out to employees and ask them to make referrals. In doing so, employees are more likely to really think about who is in their network, and you can even set up different employee referral sessions where maybe you get some pizza, you bring everybody together in a conference room over the lunch hour, you're paying for the pizza, and you just ask them to make a list of all of the people that they know of who would be a good fit for the organization, and then have them circle the ones who would be a good fit for your particular position, and then highlight those who are circled to indicate who they are going to reach out to themselves to see if the person would be interested in speaking further about the opportunity. You then have them turn those lists into you, and then as people are coming in and being referred, you know who to pay those referral bonuses to, but then you also have a list of names that you can go out and search. And while it's not a warm sourcing call, it's not a cold sourcing call, it's a little bit warmer because they are people who know individuals within your organization that you can reach out to and say, hey, we have this opportunity, wanted to see if you would be interested in talking with us further. And if you do end up pursuing them, you can offer your employee a modified referral bonus if it's somebody that they had thought of but didn't really reach out to. So it's a great way to get lists of people that you can reach out to. The other thing that you'll want to consider are your network contacts. Who do you know in the industry who might be a fit, or who do you know who might know of someone who would be a fit for your position? So the person you hire will be somewhere within your network. It's that whole 7 degrees of separation. They will somehow know somebody who knows somebody who knows you. And reaching out to those folks takes just a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and oftentimes can reap the most reward. All right, so once you have your position out there, you've got your employees referring folks, you've got, it's on Indeed, it's on industry boards, it's on college boards. Candidates are going to start coming in. And once that position is posted and you've reached out, the clock starts ticking. The minute someone expresses an interest in your position, you need to respond immediately. Candidates do not stay searching for employment for very long, and they lose interest very, very quickly. Technology today and all of the information that we have at a moment's notice has really shortened the attention span of individuals. And so if they are expressing an interest, they're excited about it right now. And if you wait too long, they no longer are interested, and they may even forget that they had applied for your opportunity. So It is really, really important that once that posting goes out, recruitment becomes one of your primary functions. And that may mean that you set aside specific time every single day to review resumes and get back to candidates, or you set aside time to interview candidates, but it has to be something that you are doing every day and not just every Friday at 4 o'clock. If you wait too long, good candidates will be gone. And in the sales world, they have that adage, time kills all deals. The same thing applies for recruitment. All right, polling question number 3. When someone applies for a position or submits their resume, do you follow up with everyone or just those candidates that you have an interest in? Okay, great. So it looks like a majority of you do send some sort of notification out to all candidates. Those of you who do not, I really recommend that you do respond to every single candidate. And it can be something as simple as, you know, if candidates are applying through email, if they're sending you an email to let you know, set up an automated signature that at least says, thanks so much for your interest in our position. We will be in touch with you within a week if we have an interest in pursuing you further. You know, thanks so much, and you know, have a great day. Just some sort of acknowledgement that a human being has received their resume and that they will be considered for the opportunity. It's really important to do that. And the primary reason is that recruitment is a sales role, right? You might think that it's not, but it is. And your company's reputation is out there, and how you handle the recruitment process is a key indicator to individuals of how you handle business on a regular basis. And if you are somebody who responds to candidates, that is a professional impression. People have a favorable impression of your company. If you do just that one simple thing, it will also prevent people from calling in to find out, did you get my resume? So just take the time to respond to everyone. So the phases of the recruitment process, you've got the position posted, you've got candidates who are now coming in. You then will go through these standard phases. The first is resume review. The second is discussion of the position, whether that's over the phone or over coffee. There's application references and background checks that take place, in-office interviews, and then comes the decision-making process where you make the hiring decision and you either reject a candidate or you extend an offer. And we're going to talk through each of these. So with the resume review, as I mentioned, you should respond to every single candidate who sends in a resume. If you are fortunate enough to have an applicant tracking system, just utilize the feature, because almost every applicant tracking system has the ability to respond to candidates the second they apply or at different phases through the process. It is a little bit time consuming to set up those automated responses, but take the time to do it because it will save you in the long run. Those of you who don't have applicant tracking systems, as I mentioned, just set up some sort of automated email response or email signature that you can utilize every time you are responding to a candidate who has applied. You should review resumes as they come in at least once per day. So I don't know if you want to set it up in the morning while you're having coffee to review resumes, or if you want to do it in the afternoon, but set up a specific time on your calendar where you will not be interrupted so that you can review resumes and get back to candidates. If you have a great candidate, reach out to them immediately to set something up. There is nothing that excites a candidate more than when they submit a resume and they get a call within a day of applying from somebody saying, hey, we received your resume. We're really excited about talking with you further. We'd like to set something up, right? If you wait too long, those candidates will no longer be available. Good candidates do not last in today's market. The next step would be a pre-screen, and I recommend this as a time saver. I know a lot of people think it may be, oh gosh, it's just a wasted added step. It's not, because a pre-screen can often take 15 to 30 minutes, whereas if you bring someone into the office, if they are going to expend the energy to get dressed up, get in their car, drive to your office, park, walk inside, and meet, you better spend more than 15 to 30 minutes with them. So in-office interviews take quite a bit of time and oftentimes take the time of multiple individuals in the interview process, whereas a pre-screen can be something that's done in 15 to 30 minutes and can really help you identify whether they have those must-haves that you identified as being required for the person who you're going to hire. So to save time and effort, conduct a phone interview. In a phone interview, you will share a little bit of information about the company and the position. You're going to ask some basic questions that are going to allow you to weed out the less qualified candidates. You can ask questions such as, do you have the legal right to work in the United States? And would you require sponsorship to work for our company? So that you can identify right off the bat if there's somebody who requires a work visa and you aren't providing work visas, then you don't have to waste your time or theirs any further. You can ask them questions like, have you been terminated from a position? What was the reason? Why are you looking for a new job at this time? What do you know about our company? What interests you about this position? And then ask them some basic questions regarding their actual experience as it relates to those must-have criteria that you established. Over the phone, you can also kind of get the demeanor of the person, you know, whether they are energetic, they have good communication skills, if they are organized, if they're prepared. A lot of those things kind of correlate over into soft skills that will help you determine whether they'd be a good fit for your organization. And during the pre-screen, when you're finished with it, you'll just let them know, you know, thank you so much for your time. I'll be sharing your information with our hiring team, and if we have an interest, we'll be getting in touch with you to set up an interview. Or if you are the decision maker and you know you want to speak with this person, you now have them on the line and can get them scheduled for that in-office interview. All right, so polling question number 4. How quickly do you follow up with candidates that you have an interest in once they've applied? Do you do that within 2 days, within 1 week, within 2 weeks, or within a month?
All right, that poll is now open.
All right, so it's all across the board. Those of you who are responding within 2 days, you get gold stars. Within 1 week, that has been the norm. But as I mentioned, with low employment and with good candidates, 1 week is going to be too long. So that might be something that you want to work on. Those of you within 2 weeks or within 1 month, again, that's something that you can work to improve on because really good candidates are going to disappear quickly. And what I find more often than not is those who are responding within 2 weeks or within 1 month, usually recruitment is like a secondary task or a task that they do every once in a while, but not very often. And so it's not their primary function. But as we have talked about previously, it really is important that if you are trying to recruit someone, that you make it a core function of your job and it's something that you work on every day. All right, after you've done a pre-screen, and by the way, pre-screens can be done either over the phone or you could meet with somebody for coffee or for lunch. Anytime you're just having a conversation and you're talking about the position, please understand that in the eyes of the law, if you're asking them questions to find out if they're qualified for a job, that counts as an interview. And so all of the applicable employment laws and laws against discrimination and those types of things fall into play when it comes to talking with individuals even during a pre-screen. So treat it as though it is part of your recruitment process and have an established set of questions that you ask. Select candidates to interview in person. So after you've done your pre-screen, you will go through your candidates and hopefully you're in this boat where you have several to choose from and you need to kind of weed it down to your top candidates. In most cases, you will not have a large pool of candidates that you get to choose from. And if that's the case, if you talk to somebody on the phone, you really, really like them, and you want to bring them in for the in-office interview, just go ahead and get it scheduled. Don't wait for something better to come along if you like the person and they have the skill set to do the job. There used to be the old adage, oh, you know, I have this position posted. I want to see at least 5 candidates that I can choose from. That may not be the case. With low unemployment, that might not be the case. And if you're looking for someone who has a specific skill set, it definitely won't be the case. So if you talk with someone they have all of your must-haves, and you think that they'd be a good fit, bring them in for an interview. Don't wait until you have more candidates to choose from. When you get to the phase where they are going to interview, you want to have them complete your application and to provide employment-related reference contact information, right? This is a standard step in almost every job process or recruitment process. Nobody is going to say, oh my gosh, I'm not applying, I'm not going to go to an interview with that company because they want me to fill out an application and some reference information. It's expected. So treat it like the tool that it is. Say that it's the required HR part of the process. We'd like for you to get this stuff taken care of now so that we can just focus on you getting to know us and us getting to know you during the interview process. All right, so don't treat the application like it's something that you're only going to do if you want to hire them. You want to gather the important information before you bring them in for an interview. If you've spoken with candidates that you're not interested in bringing in for an interview, then go ahead and send the rejection notifications to those individuals. Be careful before you do it. Make sure that you really want to reject them. If they're kind of on the bubble, you're like, oh, I'm not so sure about this person. I like this candidate or these two candidates better. Pursue those two candidates. Don't send the rejection to the one. But anybody that you know for certain that you're not going to pursue, definitely send them a rejection notification so that they know the loop has been closed on that position. You're going to want to prepare for the in-office interviews, and part of that preparation includes determining who in your organization is going to meet with the candidates. This, to me, is by far the most important part of your interview experience for the candidate and for yourself. With this, you want to make sure that you are picking individuals to interact with these potential candidates who are actually going to create a positive impression. People who tend to be your top performers, people who think favorably about the organization, people who know what they're doing and are meeting expectations as is, and they know what it takes to be successful. Those are the folks that you want to include in your process. Now, that includes peer-level individuals, because every candidate wants to meet people that they're actually going to work side by side with. They want to meet their peers. You also will want to include a supervisor or a manager. That would be someone that the candidate will actually report to or receive work direction from. And then, of course, include senior managers or executives who are ultimately in charge of either the department or the organization. Candidates want to meet each of these different types of individuals, and they want to do that because they need to be able to picture themselves working side by side with this person, receiving work direction from that person, and getting mission, vision, and values from this individual who leads the organization. The more they can picture themselves interacting with all of those different individuals, the easier it will be for you to get them to accept a job. If you only have candidates interviewing with executives, but the candidate is an entry-level person, they can't in any way, shape, or form know what it is that they're getting into because they didn't meet any of the other folks. And while it is extremely important to have executives in the interview process, it is super important to have those peer-level individuals and supervisors as well. The second part of the preparation for in-office interviews consists of identifying interview questions that are going to be asked of every single candidate for that particular position. There are going to be some questions that you ask of every candidate regardless of the position that could be related to how they fit in with your company's culture, what their motivational tactics are, what's important to them, career development, how they handle conflict. Those are standard questions that you might ask of everybody, but there are going to be some specific questions that you want to ask about candidates for this particular position to determine if they have the technical skills, the education, or the soft skills to do this particular job. And when you sit down with the folks who are going to be involved in the interview for the organization, you need to assign specific questions to specific individuals so that it makes sense. A peer level person may be asking questions about culture fit, or might ask questions about, education, right? So they're going to ask some basic questions. A supervisor might ask questions about conflict resolution or technical capabilities. And the executive level interviewer may ask more questions related to career development and where this person sees their career going, right? So the question should make sense based on the level of the individual. And you also will want to task each person with the responsibility of sharing information about your organization. So the peer level individual may share information about the fun activities that you do, or what it's like during your busiest season, or the types of fun projects that you get to work on, or community service activities. The supervisor will share information on things like performance management and career development and those types of things. And the executive can share information on the mission, vision, and values of the organization and where it plans to go. And by preparing for that and letting each interviewer know what their role is in the interview and what questions they're supposed to be asking, you ensure that no candidate will be asked the exact same questions of each person. Like they're only asked, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself and where do you want your career to go? They're going to be asked a myriad of questions, and they're also going to receive a lot of information about the company, and they won't have every single interviewer telling them the exact same thing about community service, right? You want the candidate to leave the interview knowing a lot of information about your company, and they also want to be provided with the opportunity to share information about themselves and how fantastic they are and how they would be a great asset to your organization in the position. So it's really, really important that you take care of this preparation phase to ensure that your interviews go very, very well, that you're getting the right information you need and candidates are getting the information they need. Which brings us to the purpose of an interview, right? We have to remember why we're in the interview. We're in the interview to share information about your organization and your position. We are there to gather information from the candidate about their skills, abilities, knowledge, and experience. At the end of it, the goal is to determine if they are a fit for the position and the organization, but most importantly, we have to treat the interview process as a way for us to create a positive experience for that candidate so that when they leave the interview, they think favorably of your organization. One thing that all interviewers need to be careful about is watching their biases. We have a lot of biases out there, and as interviewers, we have to make sure that we're keeping ourselves in check. Bias number one is called the halo effect. And with the halo effect, what happens is you meet them in the lobby, and they look extremely professional, and they have a smile on their face, and you just walk up to them and go, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this person. I know they're going to be great. And it's all based on how they look and what their demeanor is. And then you get them into the interview room and you start asking questions, and because you had that favorable first impression, you are looking only for the positive in them, okay? So even if they kind of are struggling with a question, you almost help lead them to the right question because you like them. That is called the halo effect. It's putting a positive spin on everything they're doing just based on a first impression. The opposite is the horn effect. You go out to the lobby, maybe they're not dressed as professionally as the last candidate. They still fit within your dress code, right? Let's say you have a casual dress code. First person came in a suit, they really impressed you. This person comes in with Dockers and a golf shirt on, and you're like, oh, they don't look nearly as nice. So right off the bat, you've got this horn effect. And what happens with the horn effect is that when you're in the interview, every time they respond to a question, you're tending to see the negative. So you are putting a negative spin on everything that they're doing based on a negative first impression. The just like me syndrome means that you meet someone and their level of enthusiasm matches your level of enthusiasm. The way that they dress is similar to how you dress. They went to your school, the same school that you went to, so you automatically are thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, they are just like me, so of course they're perfect for this position. because nobody could do this job better than me, right? You're almost then applying the halo effect to that individual because they are just like you. And you're not putting them in, you're not asking them questions to put them in scenarios that would allow you to see the negative side of them, okay? The last one is called stereotyping. And with that, it's assuming that they're going to behave a certain way because of one characteristic. There's obvious ones based on just discriminatory factors, but in the non-discriminatory realm, it's things like, oh, they went to a particular college, so, and you don't like people from that college. They're too snooty because it's a private college. So you are thinking that they're going to be snooty and have the horn effect on them. Or they go to, they work for a certain company, you have a friend who works there, you know everybody who works there is just awesome. So you are thinking that because they worked for that company before, they must be awesome too, all right? So stereotyping is just taking one characteristic and applying it to every single individual who may come from a similar background. The thing you have to be careful of with your biases is that you are not going to be able to see both sides of an individual if you are applying a bias, right? In an interview, we want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is why we have standard interview questions. Standard interview questions are going to help you combat against your biases. If you have standard interview questions that you are asking, you will put candidates in both positive scenarios where they were able to respond in a positive way, as well as negative scenarios where they had to overcome some sort of challenge or difficulty. And when you have those standard interview questions, you are wiping out the biases because you are able to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. When it comes time for the interview, here are some really important things to keep in mind. First of all, make sure that everybody who is on your interview team receives the candidate's interview packet ahead of time so that they can review the information before going into the interview room. So you want to review the candidate's resume, you want to review their phone interview notes or any other materials that they've shared prior to the interview so that you can identify additional questions that you want to ask based on the information that you see in those documents on top of your standard interview questions. For example, if you see that somebody did a study abroad and you want to ask them a question about what they learned on that study abroad, gosh, it's going to be really interesting for all of these students who have been on study abroad and have had to come back due to COVID-19. It'll be interesting to hear how they handled that, what their response was, and I think that'll be a really, really good interview question to ask of them, which you wouldn't ask of every candidate because not every candidate goes on a study abroad, but it's something that you're seeing on their resume. Or you might see that somebody has a gap in employment history or that they've job hopped a lot and you need to address that issue, right? The interview is the perfect time to ask those types of questions. So by having time to review the information before the interview, you can identify those additional questions that you're going to ask in addition to those standard interview questions that you came up with during that preparation phase. I know this seems really, really basic and self-explanatory, but you have to be on time to your interview. When you are not on time, you are sending a message to a candidate that their time is not important, that they might be an afterthought, that filling this position isn't important, and most importantly, that the organization doesn't really respect the time of other individuals. So be on time to the interview and do not leave a candidate waiting alone in the conference room. What that means is that if you are first on deck in an interview and there is someone who is scheduled to come in after you, you will sit with that candidate until that other person arrives. Or if it's 5 minutes after they're supposed to be there, you can briefly excuse yourself to go find someone who will go get that person who is second on the agenda. You should not leave a candidate in that interview room alone. Come up with some small talk to keep them entertained, and then make that introduction when that person comes in. Every interviewer should introduce themselves to the candidate by stating their name, their position title, and how long they've been with the organization, so that the candidate knows who it is that they're talking to. During the interview, you want to ask your questions, you want to provide information, and you want to ask the candidate if they have any questions. I highly recommend typing out your standard interview questions so that you have that template for every candidate that you interview and so that you can take notes. And if you're going to take notes, let the candidate know. And the way that I always do that is I just say, I have several questions that I'm going to be asking. I want to make sure that I retain the information that you're sharing, so I'm going to be taking some notes during the interview. Just wanted to let you know that, right? And make sure you take notes for every question, not just the ones that they may be responding with a negative response, like how do you manage conflict? Tell me about a conflict you've had with somebody in the workplace. And then you only write that down, but you don't write down anything when you're talking with them about what motivates them to perform their best. So take good notes, and that way you can keep one candidate straight from another. After you're done with the interview, if you're the last person to interview, let the candidate know the timeline for making a decision. If you have 2 other candidates that you're interviewing, it's okay to say, hey, thanks so much for your time. We will be wrapping up our interviews this week and hope to make a decision by early next week. And then walk the candidate out and take care of any parking details and thank them for their time. It is shocking to me how few people will actually thank a candidate for their time. And again, it's just leaving them with that positive impression of your organization by doing so. All right, so polling question number 5. Who do you include as part of your interview team? Is it just executives, supervisors and managers only, executives and supervisors and managers, or executives, supervisors, managers, and peers? All right, so it looks like there are just a few who do executives or managers, and the majority of folks are including peers or at least a combination of executives and managers, so that's great. As I mentioned earlier, if you take one thing away from this presentation, it would be the importance of including individuals at all levels. Certainly, if you have an executive level position, you're not going to include entry-level staff in those interviews, right? But if you have the opportunity with entry-level positions or even with just general mid-level positions to include peer level as well as management and executive, it really will make a difference as long as you're including the right people. All right, after an interview, it is so important to get together and make your decision. Right after you interview someone is when they are freshest in your mind. And I even recommend you have the interview agenda, you've got it on people's calendars. I recommend finding 15 to 30 minutes right after the interview in that same day to pull everybody who is involved in the interview together, to gather their notes, gather their interview feedback forms, and discuss the candidate and whether or not they think they're a good fit. Of course, executives make the ultimate decision, and so it's okay to let the folks involved in the interview know that hey, we completely respect your opinion, we value it. Executives will take a look at all of the information and then make a decision, but you want to know what other people are thinking. If you like a candidate, let them know immediately. The example I have of this is we have a summer leadership program here at Bailey. It is a 2-day event. We get to know these students very, very well. And at the end of the event, we get together for, sometimes it takes longer than an hour, but we get together and we talk about the candidates. And those candidates that really, really stood out, we call them that evening to say, thank you so much for participating in our program. You made such a positive impression on our staff that we would like to extend an offer to you for an internship, or we would like to send an offer to you for a full-time position after you graduate. And you can't fathom what a positive response we get from those students. Some of them accept the job on the spot because when they are leaving our office, they are still high on the experience that they just had. And so then to wrap it up with an offer, it makes them feel good. And it is a great way to capitalize on that positive feeling. So if you're creating a positive interview experience, you want to hire somebody, call and extend the offer. And of course, you should make that offer contingent upon successful completion of a background check, which we will get to here in a minute. But definitely get in touch with candidates to let them know if they've made a positive impression on you. If you still need to interview a couple of candidates, but you've met somebody who you think is a very strong contender, pick up the phone and call and let them know that. Thanks so much for your time. You have made a great impression. We're really, really impressed, and we're going to be in touch soon. Please let us know if you have another opportunity that comes up that you need to make a decision on, because we don't want to miss out on the opportunity to pursue you further, right? So let them know. Just be honest with them. If the candidate lacks the experience or the soft skills, or you know that they're just not going to be a fit with your organization, wait 2 days before you send them that rejection. Responding right away with a rejection letter is a little bit insensitive and oftentimes can make them think very negatively about your organization. So just, wait, even if you know for certain. And trust me, there are people who their first impression is the right impression. After you speak with them and have them answer your questions, you know for certain that you're not pursuing them, but you don't want to reject them right away. You still want to create a very positive experience for them so that they think favorably about your organization. All right, background checks and references. Never, and it is bolded, highlighted, underlined, and in a larger font for a reason, never hire someone without doing a background check and references. You cannot fathom how many people out there lie on their application, on their resume. So you definitely want to make sure that you do a background check that will check their education and confirm that they really did graduate with the degree that they say they did. Verify their employment. Sometimes it will pull up employers that they have not listed, which is very telling, or will indicate that they didn't work somewhere for nearly as long as they say they did. You need to check credit if that's appropriate for your position. If you're hiring a CFO, an accountant, a bookkeeper, somebody who has access to your bank account information, you absolutely want to check credit. Felony conviction record, if that, so that you can see if they have a felony record that is relevant to the position. And I say that because if somebody who is in an accounting role happens to have a DUI, a felony DUI, that is not relevant to their job unless they have the inability to get to work. Whereas a felony conviction of embezzlement is absolutely directly correlated to finance or accounting related position. And then driving record. If you require individuals to drive as part of their job, you will want to make sure you know that they have a valid driver's license that is active, they're not on a suspended license or don't have any contingencies on that. References are really important to obtain so that you can find out more about their experience, what their attendance was like, what their attitude was like, and strengths and weaknesses. And anybody who tells you that you can't get references is wrong. When you tell a candidate, I need the names of 2 or 3 individuals from your previous employers, and you can even say, I want 1 individual from your last 2 employers who will tell me information about you and your work performance, and tell them it's a requirement of the job. They then can contact those individuals and say, hey, I listed you as a reference, so when these people call, will you please respond to their questions? I have, I would bet 99.8% of the circumstances, I am able to get reference information, and I'm able to get really good reference information that helps me determine whether or not this candidate would be a good fit for the position in the organization. If you just keep the questions basic, if you make sure the candidate has confirmed with those people that they'll speak to you, the candidate will get you the names of people that you can contact. And you want to do that, so take the time to do that. When it comes to extending the offer, once you've made that decision, make sure that you have all of your offer details figured out before you contact the candidate. The things the candidate is going to want to know are, what's the position title? So don't call them and say, hey, we haven't figured out what the title is yet. They're not going to accept your offer unless they know what the title is. So figure out what the title is. Figure out what the compensation is that you want to offer, including a signing bonus or other offer-related bonuses, and already know in your head if they counter, what you're willing to counter with. So let's say you want to offer a candidate a position at $60,000 a year. They're currently making 56, so you think they're going to take it, but if they countered back and said, that they wanted more money. How are you going to counter that? Are you going to counter it with a signing bonus? Are you going to then offer them $62,000 and say that's the highest you can go? You know, those are the important things to keep in mind. A potential start date, you know when you want this person to start. So by all means, have that idea in your mind and make sure that that works for your human resources department, your IT department, the department that they're actually going to work in. You know, make sure that there are going to be people there who can actually onboard them and get them trained if they were able to start on that specific start date. And then what your offer deadline is. If they need to think about the offer, it is completely appropriate for you to give them time, but to also set a deadline. If you were to extend an offer on a Friday, giving them a week should be substantial time for them. Or if you wanted to say, hey, we know that this is a big decision. If you'd like to take time over the weekend to think about it, that would be great. We just hope that you can let us know on Monday, all right? Do not ever let somebody say, oh, I need a month to think about this, because you're just losing time where you could be pursuing other candidates. So typically, a week is sufficient for people to make a decision. For new college grads who maybe haven't graduated yet, their hire date is like a year or two. Some of them are now 3 years in the future, which is crazy. It is okay to say, hey, I realize this summer you're going to be participating in different summer programs, or you have an internship and you want to wait until that's done. If you know for certain that you do not want an opportunity with our organization, we'd like for you to let us know. But if we are a serious contender, then yeah, we can wait until after you've decided what you want to do after your internship. So, but set a deadline. Don't leave a job open indefinitely. And anything that you come up with, once you verbally extend the offer, and please be excited when you extend an offer. I mean, this is a huge financial asset that you're bringing on board. You want to make sure that you are excited about it. You're about ready to spend $60,000 on something. Be excited about it, right? Call them, hey, we are so excited to have you join our organization. Here's the offer. It's this position title. Here's the compensation. We'd love for you to be able to start April 1. You know, is that an offer that you're interested in? And once you verbally extend the offer, follow it up with a written offer letter. If you're doing a background check, make sure that your offer letter has the contingency clause in it where it says this offer is contingent upon successful completion of the background check. And then if there is an offer deadline, this offer is good through, you know, March 30th, so that they know when they need to make a decision. They know that it's contingent on the background check, and it is in writing what the position title and compensation are. Some of you may have positions that you are going to fill with candidates who require relocation, and there is a little different spin that needs to be placed on these individuals, because you're not just selling them on your organization and the position, you are selling them on your town or the community. So some things that you can do there, we work with realtors in the local markets where we have offices, and when we are bringing candidates in from out of town, we contact those realtors and provide them, first of all, we find out from the candidate if they're interested in a tour of the community and want to take a look at any houses or those kinds of things. And if they say yes, we put the candidate in touch with the realtor so that the two of them can figure out what their community tour is going to look like. Is it just going to be driving around to see different areas? Is it going to be looking at apartments? Is it going to be looking at churches or schools or different things? Because having an employee do that tour can often lead you into finding out about someone's political affiliation, a little bit more about the type of house that they want to live in, or whether they're going to be renting an apartment. And those are factors that you just don't even want to know about, because you don't want the candidate to be able to come back and say, well, they found out that I'm Catholic and therefore didn't hire me. Or they found out that I want to live in a super nice house and now they don't want to hire me. Right? So you don't want to put any of that stuff out there. Let a realtor handle the tour. They're the professionals. They know the community. If the candidate says, hey, I want to look at all of the private schools, or I want to look at neighborhoods with houses in this range, keep it between the realtor and the candidate. The other thing that you can do would be to invite the significant other to join the candidate on their tour of the area. So if you're going to bring them in from out of town, have them come in for 2 to 3 days. The realtor can take the candidate's significant other on a tour as well, work with them separately. You can do a meet and greet dinner with the candidate and their significant other or family, and people from your office and their significant others, just so that it kind of creates that sense of it's not just about the candidate, it's the candidate and their family, because the family absolutely is going to be involved in the decision. If you're putting them up at a hotel, have a basket of local goodies that are delivered to their hotel room prior to their arrival, so that when they get to the hotel and they open the door, there's this basket. It's a welcome basket of things that are, native to that community, whether it's a certain kind of chocolate. Like here in Minnesota, we have a place called Moose Drool. It's a chocolate company. They make fantastic candy. So we would include that. We would include some Caribou gift cards, because Caribou is something that is popular around here, the coffee shops. Maybe a Minnesota towel, or, just little things that kind of give them a sense of the community, with a personalized note that says, hey, we're so glad you're here, looking forward to the next couple of days and getting to know you. And then if they are relocating, you should include some sort of relocation package as part of their offer. And that relocation package could include working with a moving company, where you contact the moving company for them and they work with that moving company, and everything is handled between you and the moving company, which is what really takes the stress off of a candidate. The stressful part of moving isn't always just the packing. It oftentimes is the coordinating of all of the logistics. And if you can take that logistic piece off of their plate, that often can help. I am less inclined to say, hey, just give them a $5,000 bonus, because relocation bonus, because $5,000 isn't going to get you very far if it's a family moving here and they have a home with a lot of furnishings. So just keep that in mind, that a relocation package should be part of the offer, and you should work that out ahead of time. With all of this, I've saved employment law for the end, because I want to make sure that people understand recruitment is all about selling your organization, attracting people to your organization, figuring out if they're the right fit for you and if you're the right fit for them. But bottom line, this is a human resources task, and therefore there are employment laws that have to be followed. The Title VII prevents discrimination based on race, color, national origin, gender, and religion. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act prevents or prohibits discrimination based on pregnancy, childbirth, or medical conditions related to pregnancy or childbirth. The Equal Pay Act stipulates that pay cannot be based on gender. You cannot pay a woman less than you pay a man just because she's a woman. The Age Discrimination in Employment Act prohibits discrimination based on individuals who are over the ripe old age of 40. I'm 51, and I remembered when I turned 40, I thought, oh, well, hey, the Age Discrimination in Employment Act applies to me now. I didn't feel very old, but you cannot discriminate against people who are over the age of 40. The Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination based on disabilities and stipulates that employers must provide reasonable accommodation when needed. And then the last one is the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, which prohibits employers from discriminating against individuals based on genetic information, including the individual or their family member. And what we mean by that is that if a candidate has a known ailment, I'm going to use cancer or MS, you can't not hire them because of that. You also can't not hire someone because their spouse or family member has some sort of genetic condition that may require additional medical expenses. And the reason that that was put into place is because people were not hiring people because they didn't want them on their insurance plan, and that is against the law. Retaliation of an individual based on their filing of a claim in any of the above areas is also prohibited. So the processes that we set in place are done to prevent individuals from discriminating, all right? When you have standard interview questions that address the job responsibilities or qualifications of a candidate, it really minimizes the amount of discrimination that you can do in your hiring practice. So recruitment processes are put in place, number one, to mitigate risk, number two, to create a positive experience for the candidate, and number three, to create a positive and consistent practice for the employer so that in the end you're hiring the right people. Knowing about the laws just means that if a question has nothing to do with the job, don't ask it, right? If you see someone if you see a female and she's tiny and you have a manufacturing firm and the requirement is that you lift 75 pounds, you have to ask the question, can you lift 75 pounds, yes or no? And they have to be able to answer it. You cannot assume that just because she's a tiny female that she can't lift 75 pounds. Also, you can't ask questions like, do you have children? You know, does your spouse mind if you travel? What does that have to do with the job? It has nothing to do with the job. If your concern is that the person is going to travel, ask that question. This job requires that you travel 40% of the time. Are you able to meet that job requirement? It doesn't matter if they have children or a spouse. If they're able to travel 40% of the time, you can ask a follow-up question. Have you done that before? You know, when have you traveled 40% of the time? And how did you handle that? It can be stressful being away from home all the time, right? You never should address things like children or spouse or any type of condition. Ask the question and see if they can perform the job responsibility. If you create a process that you use consistently for all applicants, it's really going to mitigate risk. And then, as I mentioned previously, don't make assumptions. Ask appropriate job-related questions to get the answer. This job requires that you do X, Y, Z. Have you done that before? This job requires experience in this area. Tell me about a time when you've done that. So in summary, following a standard process for recruitment requires a lot of time and energy up front. It needs to be more than just an afterthought task or responsibility, okay? But if you spend time and energy up front, it's going to allow you to identify your need, what it is that you're looking for, so that you can find that right person. And when you include others in the interview process, it helps you to sell your position, helps you to sell the organization to that right person, and that right person can then become your next top performer. So while it's a lot of time and energy spent up front, it's time and energy that is well spent. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully you were able to get some information here that was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. I'd be happy to answer them. And stay safe and healthy out there.